The Russia-Ukrainian War, which started in 2014, significantly escalated on February 24, 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine. The invasion is believed to have killed tens of thousands of people on both sides and to have sparked the biggest refugee crisis in Europe since World War II. The invasion has drawn strong worldwide criticism. Many countries imposed sanctions on Russia, as well as on its ally Belarus, which have affected the economies of Russia and the world. As of August 2022, more than $80 billion in humanitarian and military aid have been sent to Ukraine from 40 different nations. In response to these sanctions, Putin decided to cut off Europe's gas supply, and suddenly the decades-long reliance on Russian natural gas put the entire European continent in danger. Russia is the top gas supplier to Europe, providing between 40 and 50% of all gas imported by the EU. Of this gas, four main pipelines, the Yamal, Nord Stream, Turk Stream, Blue Stream, and Ukrainian pipelines, carry 85% of the EU's total gas imports. Since the start of the conflict in February, Putin has been slowly cutting off the flow of gas through these pipelines. In April, Russia cut off Yamal Europe after Poland and Bulgaria refused to pay in rubles, and in early May, Ukrainian authorities reduced flow through their transit system after occupying Russian forces took control of their gas compressor station. In mid-June, Gazprom cut flows through Nord Stream, claiming that the necessary turbine was stuck in Canada because of the Western sanctions. Then a week or so later they announced that Nord Stream would be closing for scheduled maintenance, and while it briefly came back online in July, in August now it is operating at just 20% of its capacity. Currently, natural gas is the primary energy source for European homes, accounting for roughly 30% of total household energy use, and is used to heat about half of those homes during the winter. European households may have trouble staying warm this winter if gas flow is limited. In an energy situation where practically all enterprises are essentially inoperable to survive the winter, wholesale energy prices have already increased by 20 times more than usual. Overall, Europe will require a crazy strategy. This will require both good fortune and outstanding leadership. Speaking of leadership, European Union put together a plan requiring every member state to have their gas storage facilities at least 80% full by this winter, and then 90% full in the following winters, and any countries which don't have storage capacities, specifically Ireland, Finland, Estonia, Lithuania, Greece, Luxembourg, and Slovenia, instead had to make so-called solidarity agreements with neighboring member states, for example, than buying gas, but then storing it in another country's reserves, which would guarantee them access to gas in the event of a shortfall. The EU's gas storage is already over 80% full, with about 900 terawatt-hours of energy already in storage, well above where it was last year. While this isn't enough to carry Europe over, for context, in 2019, Europe consumed 600 terawatt-hours in January alone. It should be enough to smooth the curve and keep prices at a manageable level. Overall, Europe is looking surprisingly good. Despite having one of the highest per capita gas consumption rates in all of Europe, the UK only has 9 terawatt-hours of gas storage capacity available. For comparison, Germany has 209 terawatt-hours of storage. Italy has 162 and France has 122. Despite the fact that the UK is still particularly vulnerable to a gas shortage, Centrica, the company in charge of the majority of the country's gas supplies, does have some sort of strategy to raise the country's rate a little bit. This is because they recently signed agreements with both Norway and Delfin Midstream, a company that imports U.S. natural gas from Louisiana. They are also reportedly considering reopening the aforementioned storage facility. British gas owner Centrica said Equinor would deliver an additional 1 billion cubic meters (BCM) of gas supplies to the company that will help heat an additional 4.5 million homes over the next 3 winters. The new deal takes Centrica's total supply deal with Equinor to over 10 BCM a year, around 12% of Britain's total gas demand. The second component is consumption. Europe can do nothing but cut back on its usual gas consumption. Around 20% of their spending must be cut, and some nations will need to increase their savings. In order to prevent serious shortages, Germany and other major European countries want to reduce their gas use by 15%. If the pipelines are shut down indefinitely, this raises the ultimate conundrum of how to reduce consumption by 15% without wrecking the economy. The burden of responsibility will probably fall on the German people, who will need to reduce their consumption, and it's possible that the government will impose gas rationing. Blackouts could happen. Data from about 2,750 businesses is being gathered by network regulator METSA, which would be in charge of rationing, to assess gas usage and create a list of which sectors would have to be turned off first. According to METSA, it is attempting to compile a list of industries that should shut down based on 6 factors, including the size of the company, financial harm, and the turnaround time for particular facilities. Additionally, EU member states have been attempting to diversify their sources of gas, particularly by acquiring more liquefied natural gas shipped by sea from nations like the U.S. A bill was enacted in Germany that allows for the return of oil and coal-fired power stations to the nation's energy mix in the event of a dire gas supply situation. In a contract that lasts until March 31, 2024, this might add 10 gigawatts of reserve capacity on a temporary basis. While Europe is taking steps to prepare for a harsh winter in the midst of an energy crisis, meanwhile Russia has said that it will not supply gas to Europe till sanctions are lifted. CEO of German gas giant Juniper, who also confirmed this, even if the continent manages to survive this ordeal for the winter, the long-term outlook is hopeless. The CEO confidently states that the relationship is broken beyond repair, which is unsettling. Even if the war were to end tomorrow, the likelihood that Russian gas will start flowing again is slim to none. Despite promising to stop using nuclear energy by 2022, Germany has still decided to retain 2 nuclear power facilities on standby. Germany's grid operators are carrying out a stress test on behalf of the government to see whether the lifetime of Germany's 3 remaining nuclear plants, which account for 6% of the country's power mix, can be extended. Meanwhile, France and Germany have committed to assisting one another's energy requirements. French President Emmanuel Macron announced that France was ready to provide Germany with gas, and Germany has agreed to send electricity to France if required. To increase LNG imports in the medium term, Germany is also in discussions with Qatar and Canada, among others. Existing supply agreements exist between German providers and Qatar, Australia, and the U.S. Overall, despite Putin disruption, Europe is well prepared for winter. Thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed it.